Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. I got some shadow. Um, I recorded this video once. I was in the middle of a thought and the sun literally just blared up and this big rainbow just went across the screen like this. Um, I left it on for a minute and then it got super bright, so I'm just gonna re-record real quick. So if you notice the little cinematic shadow, that's just because I just closed my windows. Um, but welcome back to another topic video. As I've explained before in other videos, me and my family are going through a bit of a bit of a change. I can't really say what because things are not definite yet, um, but hoping for the best, and it's kind of all hands on deck right now. So I'm kind of focusing on helping with the family and stuff like that right now. So hopefully I'll be able to talk about it pretty soon. But for the meantime, we're gonna be doing a lot of topic videos in the meantime, just to keep the channel going. Um, so let's get into this one. So Richard Dreyfuss, um, who's one of the stars of the original Jaws, which I like Jaws. I'm not huge on Jaws. I know it's kind of blasphemy, but I liked it. Didn't love it, from what I recall. So, but he made a few comments recently about art, specifically the limitations or the lack there any like what are the limits to art, and um, he made some interesting points, one of which I agree with, and then one point that a lot of people did not like, and a lot of people are taking issue with. So I'll start with the one that I agree with, which is he made a point stating that art should not be catering to anybody. Like there's this idea that art is being pushed on towards minority groups, or people will like we're flagging up diversity and all these other things. And this was a conversation that was being this was all brought up due to the Oscars, like they changed their qualifications or something like that, did some bullshit, and Richard decided to make a comment on just decided to make a bigger create a bigger discussion in response to the Oscar qualifications thing. And his first point about art, not catering to people of really anybody, just making your kind of art the way you want to make it. Absolutely agree with that. I mean, I've preached on this channel for a long time that I don't think that diversity is really as inclusive as people think it is, and I don't think we should be bending the knee for people who are just highly insecure about themselves and wish to see themselves represented. Just that's that's it's just total nonsense, really. Like just make the movie you want to make. If it happens to be about if it happens that the crew is a bunch of white dudes or a bunch of Hispanics or blacks or whatever like that, it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, I don't see that as as an issue. I don't care really what the content itself is really, as because I mean it's all make believe, as long as it's done in an appropriate manner, and because there is such a thing as being appropriate in my opinion. There is such a thing as being offensive, and like not being very insensitive about the subjects. Like I'll give you a movie example. Like I just saw the film Cake recently by it was starring Jennifer Aniston, which she's done some dramatic work here and there. This was kind of the one that people were talking about the most. And the movie deals with some very dense stuff. We're talking about like chronic depression, chronic pains. We're talking about suicidal ideation, like very, very dense stuff. And at least to me anyway, the film I felt was a bit inappropriate because of how it handled its subjects. And it almost felt like it was using it for a dramatic effect versus being more informative and being more sensitive. And um, like it's tonally a bit of a mess. Like it just for some reason goes to like extremely grim portraits to very awkwardly uh, comforting and comical type levels. Like I didn't like um, the way it played around with its subjects, and I felt like it just was being very insensitive to its subjects. It's not the case that it was just a poorly crafted film. I think that the film just doesn't is not handling its subjects correctly, and kind of doing a disservice to it. So there is such a thing as being appropriate and inappropriate, but at the end of the day, though, an artist is an artist. I want to see their expression, and as the outsider, I get to make a comment on said expression. So I do agree with Richard Dreyfuss on that point, where it's like, yeah, you make the art the way you want to make the art. Do fuck people who are saying gotta do this, gotta do that. Just make the art you want to make, and then I'll make a comment on it if I think it's inappropriate. That's my business, but I want to see your vision. I want to see your expression. I want to see how you see things, your perspective, and how you use these kinds of ideas. So because even though I didn't like Cake, and I think that Cake is inappropriate, and you could consider it an offensive type of film. Um, the fact of the matter is that the filmmaker made the film that they wanted to make. You know, so and I preach that I want you to make the movie that you want to make. Despite my criticisms, I want you to make the film you want to make. Despite all that. So I agree with him on that point. That point, I think, yeah, that's I think pretty I think this should be common sense. Artists should be making the art they should make, because that would that would you would not be an artist then if you're not making your own art. So, um, but then he made another point, and this is the point that everybody got a little how should we say, got a little got a little questionable in terms of his point. So it's because he kept talking about art and the limitations of it, and he was just like, well, people should be allowed to play whatever they want. Him as a performer, he was just using him as his profession as an example, saying that, well, people should play anything. I should be able to play this person, I should be able to play that person, and then the one example that he brought up was that I should be able to play a black guy. And yeah, that's yeah. So, uh, and now I gave him the benefit of the doubt when I read that. I was thinking, okay, maybe there's a reason for him to bring it up. I was giving him benefit of the doubt, and then I read it, and it kind of in context and everything. I was just like, maybe it's a poor example that he brought up. I don't know, but uh, yeah, that's called blackface. Yeah, we don't do that no more. Um, we don't do that anymore for a good reason. Um, the last time that really happened, I think, was with Robert Downey Jr. Right in Tropic Thunder. I mean, I know that he went off to get an Oscar nomination or anything like that, and people will use that as a you know a people will use that as a reasoning to have these sort of things happen, but no, especially like, bro, in colleges and stuff like that. Blackface was a fucking thing. Like for a hot minute, it was a thing, and yeah, I mean, art. I mean, this is when I read that, I was like, yeah, no, dude. I mean, there are boundaries when it comes to art. Like remember the movie White Chicks? You know how they had what was his name, Marlon Wayans, and he played two white chicks. Um, like that's whiteface. Like there's blackface and there's whiteface, and we don't do that shit anymore either. I think that funny enough, I would say that between the white chicks idea and then blackface, I think white chicks would probably be more accepted than blackface, because people for some reason believe that hating on white people is apparently not racist, but whatever. I mean, that's getting into a bigger conversation. But but yeah, there are limitations to art. You can't. There are just certain things that you can't really do, and definitely that is one of them. And the reason is pretty fucking obvious. You don't have the experience. You don't have the credibility. And it's not like with any other type of role where you're not able to represent it. That's the point. Like it's different if you're playing with anything else, like if somebody has a disability or anything like that, because disability doesn't is not catered to one skin color or whatever like that. Everybody, regardless of skin color or race, has experience. And I'm just using examples, like people have experience like schizophrenia or autism or any other types of extreme examples. Like, it's not like schizophrenia is only a thing that occurs in black people or this or that. It can occur in anybody. Um, so with you as a performer, regardless of who you are, you don't have to be black or this or that to play that kind of part. It could be anybody. So, and and like it gets into kind of a interesting gray area with this topic too, because there's also that discussion about gender swaps, and people, maybe men playing female parts and stuff like that. Again, it depends on the the context, like if you want to play a transgender, right? I think that any straight or normal person should be allowed to play that, because again, in the context of the role, and in discussing what a transgender is, it is a man who is a woman or vice versa. So I get why that should be available to anybody as well, because quite literally anybody can play that kind of thing. So again, so there's no limitations on that end. But then when you start saying that, oh, I want to play a black person, or I want to play an Asian person, or I want to do this and that, that's where I start going, yeah, no, you can't do that, because you don't have the knowledge, the experience, and you also you're just not black. Like, that's just how this is. You can't do that thing, because that starts falling into racist and questionable areas. Like I said, that's blackface. That starts getting into bad territory. um, like, there are limitations with art, and that's definitely an example of what not to do. you know um, maybe at one point it was accepted, maybe at one point it maybe was not looked at as a bad thing, but yeah, I wouldn't see, like, usually I'm the type of dude where I'm like, oh yeah, like, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine, because it's art and whatever like that. But just I've learned recently, it's like there are some things, bro, you just gotta keep, you know you gotta keep your mouth shut on. Or there's just some things that you just really can't do, like, and you can't use art as a cover up, because that's really what Richard is saying. He's just using art as a cover up. He's like, I want to play a black person, and it's like, well, why do you want to play a black person? Like, it's like, I just don't understand the motivation for it. Like, again, is it just the artsy fartsy type of mindset where it's like, oh, I just want to play whatever, I should be able to do whatever, like that. It's like I kind of, like I said, with like insensitivities, and then start to become offensive and stuff like that. Like, it just that's what it feels like it would be. Not what it feels like, it would be that. So, because, yeah, mm, just no, no. And it's not it's not a woke thing. It's not like, oh, whatever, he's now turning fucking liberal or whatever like that. No, no, no. I think it's just common sense, bro. I mean, you shouldn't, like, it's like I said, when it came to like portraying disabilities or portraying a transgender or whatever like that, that's free game, because those types of things do not have are not bonded to skin color, or restricted to a certain type of thing. um, so I get why anybody, a white person, black person, Asian person, whatever, like, I I get how it's like, okay, yeah, you can play that part. But when you're saying, oh, I want to play a black person, like, it's like, no, I'm sorry, you don't get to have that kind of, you don't get to play around like that. That's getting into a really bad spot place, and that's no longer art. That's like, that's that's blackface. That's a lot. It's a lot of, like, bad stuff, and it's stuff that people should not be normalizing, especially when it comes to artistic expression. So while I do preach that you do whatever the hell you want to do, also have some level of sympathy for what you're crafting, and have some awareness to what you're doing. Because you don't want to be presuming too much. You don't want to be doing this or that, because you might just hurt some people. You just might I'm not saying you cater to people. I'm just saying like have a little bit of an awareness of what you're crafting, because there is such a thing as offensive art. There is such a thing as as insensitive stuff like that. Like you just got to be a little more respectful, especially if you're talking about such specific things. Like if you're gonna say as a white person, like, oh yeah, I want to play a black person. I want to experience what it means to be black. It's like, you know what I mean? It's just like just the language of it. It doesn't sit well, So I get why people were very vocal about that point. 'Cause it's like, yeah, that I don't see where that's necessary, and I don't see why you feel the need to insert yourself into that kind of role when the fact is that there's a ton of other roles you can play around in. You can play a superhero, you can play the civil, you can play literally anything else, because those roles are not bonded to skin color. When you're saying you want to play something that specific, like a black person, whatever like that, sorry, dude. Yeah, a white person's not gonna play a black person. That's like saying like a white person's gonna play Martin Luther King or Barack Obama, or uh, or Malcolm X. You know what I mean? No, you're not gonna have Chris Hemsworth be playing Malcolm X or whatever like that. You're going to need somebody of from that community. You're gonna need someone who's black, because it's like I always go back to what Denzel Washington says. It's not about just about skin color. It's also about the culture. So you're misrepresenting the culture when you're having a white person play Malcolm X. It's a cultural thing. So if you want to get the culture right, you also need to have someone who understands that culture and is a part of said community. AKA, you need to have a black person play that kind of role. So so there are specific things for certain roles, that need to be, recognized. You can't just do whatever the hell you want to do, because then you're bending facts and you're doing all these sort of things. Like, that's when it starts getting a bit cryptic, a bit questionable, and possibly racist, Um, and it's just the artsy fartsy mindset where she's like, I want to do whatever I want to do. It's like, nah, you don't. It's that you got to be more sensitive. You got to be a little more sympathetic. You can't just be doing whatever the hell you want to do. So, but I do preach that artists do, like, whatever the pitch is. Yeah, I mean, do what you want, but understand that people are going to look at it a certain way. You know what I mean? So I do preach that people do what they want to do, but just understand that people are going to that there's the potential for it to be offensive. There's the potential for it to be very self-indulgent. There's the potential for it to be flat out racist, or whatever like that. You know, just have the understanding of what your project is. Versus presuming and just assuming that, oh well, it's fine because I feel that it's gonna be like, what I mean. You have to have a little more of an open-minded, type of thing, especially if you're going to deal with sensitive subjects. So that's just me though. I just say be a little more sensitive and be a little more respectful, and just be flat out um, knowledgeable. I mean, a white person does not need to play a black person. I don't see why you need to do that. So I don't see why you want to insert yourself in that type of place anyway. Now, if you want to play like a transgender or anything like that, I get that, because, well, you have there's you have that ability to do so, and there's no restrictions. It's not a cultural thing or whatever like that, or something that's race specific. No, you can play those kind of parts. But when you're saying I want to play a black person or anything like that, yeah, sorry, yeah, you don't, yeah, they're not going to offer that kind of role to you. So yeah, art does have boundaries. There are limitations. I do say though that you do you, bro. Like, seriously, do you? I'm not saying like, oh, you shouldn't do these kind of movies. Like, no, do you, bro? I mean, do whatever kind of film you want to make, but don't be surprised when someone like me or anybody else is gonna find that incredibly offensive, racist, or anything like that, because that's just the fact. That's just reality. That's just what it is. But do what you want to do. You know, because I always preach that for artists. Like, do what you want to do, make the movie you want to make, but don't be upset if my response is that it's offensive or anything like that. Like with Cake, I think that movie is inappropriate. But hey, if that's the filmmaker's vision, I wouldn't have it any other way. You know what I mean? Because I want to see what your vision is, how you craft things, your perspective. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see corporate. I don't want to see this and that being thrown in there. I want to see people making their art the way they want to make it. And if it happens to be an offensive, racist thing, then it's like, hey, at least that's you. At least that's you. You know, at least that ain't someone else. So you know, so that's just where I'm coming from. That's just my perspective on it. So yeah. So yeah, so sorry, sorry that you don't get to play a black person. Sorry, sorry that that's not an option for you. But you guys, let me know your thoughts on Richard Dreyfuss's comments. I think it's pretty clear. Yeah, I don't see why you need to play a black person. But if you guys, for some reason, agree with his comments, I'm curious if you guys agree with his comments. What do you guys think about that whole discussion? I think it's a very interesting conversation to have. Curious to hear what you guys think. And yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for watching. And like I said, we got more topic videos coming down the pipe, so just be on the lookout for those videos. But yeah, this was a very interesting discussion. So very, very interesting. Curious what you guys think. But uh, but yeah, that's my thoughts. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.